Hi guys, happy Monday. Today we are going to be talking about a new form of the passive. The passive voice has all of the same tenses as the active, which means it's going to have a perfect, a pluperfect, and a future perfect. But we learned those in the active earlier this year. They're easy, and the passive versions are just as easy. Really, really short two-step process, okay? So let's go ahead and get started. On your worksheet for today, I'm going to show you that, I have two spaces here for notes. I'm going to review with you how to do the perfect tense in the active before I give you the perfect tense in the passive. That's on purpose. You're not going to be using that here to form your synopses to do your work for today, but it's a good thing to just have in mind. It's been a while since we've seen each other. I just really want you to make sure you don't forget those endings, okay? Because you learned them this year. All right, so make sure you take those notes. And there they are. The perfect active. This one's all a review. We learned this one back in the fall. It uses the third principal part stem. Remember, most words in Latin, verbs, I should say, have four principal parts. So as you count them down, they're not very creatively named. It's the first principal part, the second principal part, the third principal part, and the fourth principal part. So to form the active, you go to the third principal part, cut off the I, and add these endings: e, isti, it, emus, istus, erunt. Remember those? If you don't, here they are again, right? And that translates as blanked. I understood. I ran. I wrote. And here I've just used three versions in English of words that don't actually end in ed, right? Because English is a weird language when it comes to past tense. But I could say, I kicked. I stabbed. I like to use that Julius Caesar verb a lot. I stabbed would be fine there too. But you can hear that the ed sometimes in English, wrote is still the past tense. Taught is the past tense of teach. We don't say teached. So those were the actives. Now on to the new thing, the passive. As we've been going through the present, imperfect, and future, we've had to pay attention to conjugations a lot, right? Is this first conjugation, O-A-R-E? Is it third, O-E-R-E with no long mark? That stuff's hard, right? It's a lot of looking at and remembering which chart to use and matching up vowels. You'll be happy to hear that for the perfect passives, we don't worry about conjugations. It's awesome. All we do is find the fourth principal part. It's a form of the word we haven't used yet, the fourth principal part. We have a space, and then we add the endings appropriate as the second word, okay? As I put here with two exclamation points, the perfect passive form will have two words. Two words. I'm going to show you an example, okay? So maybe this sounds confusing to begin with, but trust me, this is super easy. So your first word will be the fourth principal part. You will have a space, and then you will add one of these following words. Sum, est, sumus, estis, sunt. So you can feel free to pause here and add that to your chart, please. Your translation for the perfect passive is has or have been blank ed. Remember, I always say that be, being, or been makes something passive. Here's been, I think, for the first time. But I have been blanked, or he, she, or it has been blanked, right? You're going to use that one appropriately for the English subject. Okay? All right. If you were looking at sum est, sumus est, saying, hey, that's familiar. I know those words. You're right, you do. This is how you conjugate the word to be or is in the present tense. It goes on to that fourth principal part to make this new form, but these forms are things you've already seen. Sum, for instance, means I am. If I were to say something like ego sum discipulus, that would mean I am a student. I hope you can see that there's a little issue there. If I said that, I would say ego sum discipula, right, with an A, because I'm feminine. But ego sum discipulus is how a young man such as yourself would say, I am a student. Ego sum, I am. Puella est alta. Est means he, she, or it. Puella is the subject. That means the girl is tall. So these are forms you've seen before. They're going to be the second word of this two-word form. But if you already have that chart in your head or in your notes, yes, it is the exact same chart. All right, let's look at an example. This word, winko, winkere, wiki, victus. It means to conquer or to beat. It's a word we've done a lot with recently. And to make the perfect passive, on this particular chart, I'm just going to go through all the different forms. For your homework, I'm going to be selecting one form for you to do. For instance, maybe all the third person singulars or something like that. But here, I'm going to show you all of these forms, all right? So following my own formula, I'm going to get the fourth principal part. Here, the fourth principal part is victus. And from my previous chart, I'm going to add that first person singular second word. So my form here is victus space sum, 2 words. Do you see how easy that is? I changed nothing. It is just taking that fourth principal part and slapping that extra word to it, okay? That would translate as I have been conquered, victus sum. For the second one, fourth principal part, victus, second word, es, victus es. You have been conquered. Third person singular, victus est. He has been conquered. And you might notice here I've just said he, not he, she, it. We'll talk about that in just 1 second. Now, here we go. It's going to get fun. We're going to get in the plurals, and you're going to see a change right off the bat. Victi sumus. The part that I've changed here is in bold. All of the singular column words end in us, and as you'll see, all of the plural column words are going to end in I. We'll get to a formal definition of this on the next slide, but where it says special note at the bottom of your notes, that's what this refers to. Victi sumus means we have been conquered. Victi estis means y'all have been conquered. And victi sunt means they have been conquered. I bet you're already catching on to how this works, why we went from US to I, but let's spell it out. Let's make this really clear, okay? Your special note on the perfect system is that fourth principal part, which when you spell out the word, when you find it in a definition in a dictionary, right, it's always that fourth principal part's going to end in a US. It actually acts like an adjective, and so it changes a little bit depending on the subject. In the example I just did, I had a masculine subject, and that meant that all of the singular column endings were US, but then all of the plural column endings were in I. That mirrors completely the second declension that we've already learned, right? USI, OMO, I, ORM, ES, ES, right? US is singular, I is plural. If I talk again about that word discipulus we saw on an earlier slide, discipulus, US, is one student. Discipuli, with an I ending, that's multiple students. So just like we already adjusted to, US is singular, I is plural. But also this being an adjective, like ending, it means that we also have options if it's feminine or neuter. The A is the signal that something's feminine and singular. AE, we're talking first declension again. AE is the signal that something is plural and feminine. UM is singular neuter. A is plural and neuter. It's like the second declension neuter. So as I went through this, you need to know this final little bit here. Latin is very masculine leaning. We all know that, right? Talked about it in class, how with your pronouns, for instance, you can have 50 girls, and if there's one guy in that crowd, then the entire group is considered masculine, right? Latin prefers the masculine. So as we go through our examples in class, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to be using this US and I ending. It's just the way that the grammar typically is shown, and so that's what I'll usually do. But feel free, if you'd like to ever switch these up and use the AAE or UMA endings, totally fine by me. In fact, I'd love to see that. That'd be pretty cool. But make sure that when you do that, you change your translations, right? For the third person singular, you wouldn't say, he has been conquered. You would say she or it, right? If you're using the singular feminine or the singular neuter. So anyway, you have that option. You can switch things up a little bit, but let's make sure that we always have the singular endings in the singular column and the plural endings in the plural column. Let's do an example, okay? Let's practice. Per usual, everyone's got the same first example. On your sheet, you're going to have 4 of these synopses, right? Remember, the synopses mean that you are doing a snapshot of all the different tenses for this word. This is the thing that we also just did for the present and perfect and future 2 weeks ago. because we only post twice a week, right? So this is a little while ago. You can go back and take a look at your previous work. I corrected it for you, tried to give you some helpful comments. So as you're going through this and you want to look back at something, you've got work. Okay, you can find an example of this even as recently as 2 weeks ago. I've also included again this passive notes roundup. I've added to the end of it the perfect passives here, so you can have that handy and not kind of shuffle through everything for your notes if you need to do that, okay? All right, let's go ahead and do one, all right? First one here, eubeo, eubere, eusi, usus. Now, as I look at the form, I see EO and then long ERE. Remember, conjugations matter for those first three, the present, imperfect, and future. And so EOERE is the second conjugation. It so happens here that the ending I want to use is going to be the second singular as well, right? So I can go back to my notes here and find that the second conjugation uses an E for a vowel, and the ending is going to typically be RIS, R-I-S. So putting those together, stem, vowel, ending, Uberis. That means second person singular is you are being ordered. Great. Be, being, or been makes something sound passive. Imperfect. Stem, vowel, ending. Eubebaris. You were being ordered. Future. Stem, vowel, ending. Baris. Booby boo. That is, you will be ordered. Remember, I'm getting all of these formulas, the stem, vowel, plus ending, from my notes roundup up there. My endings are all there. My translations are all there. It's your one-stop shop for all this info. Now, for the perfect tense, this is the brand new one. And remember, it uses the fourth principal part, which is usus. This is singular, so it's going to stay usus. If I wanted to, I could say usa, but like I said, I'm usually going to prefer the masculine in here because Latin does as well. So usus, space, es. That's the second person singular. Usus es. Translation, you have been ordered. And, once we have this practice form here, you can obviously just kind of take a cue from this as you go through all of your translations. Don't forget to change the person and number, but really it's kind of the same idea all the way down. It's always in the same order, which is really nice, right? Okay. All right. I hope that this was an adequate introduction to the perfect passive. If you've got some questions, remember my office hours are every morning, 9 to 10. Feel free to watch this again if you need to pick up on it again. And we'll be moving forward from this on Wednesday. But it was good and fun to teach you guys a little bit about verbs. You have a great day.